Jenna,
Hello,
we're back
Paul.
in the media studio.
We're back in the media studio.
Third video?
Yes, I
All
think
right,
so.
cool. We've done a little orientation to Kora.
Yeah.
We also did some work on templates. Now, one of the things we kind of introduced in the last video is assignments.
Yes, so we're going to dive right into.
We're going to dive right in and start
that.
creating an assignment.
Okay.
Okay.
So as you can see behind us here, hopefully, if our technology has worked out right, this is the eWolf My Assignments and Activities page. And to create an assignment, we would, either go down
So
to...
I think there'll be a number of ways to do it, but let's always stick with the simplest way. Go down to your course, and in the My Courses, My Group,
Okay.
you are the faculty member in a Jenna sample course.
I sure
so
am.
let's go in there. Okay.
All right, I'm going to pop out. I think it should appear right about here.
Very cool. Let's talk about, we'll build off the scenario that we had where we talked about templates.
Okay.
So here's the scenario, and it could go much greater in terms of depth and complexity. We'll just go and stay simple.
Okay.
I got a template that's out there. The faculty launched it at the beginning of the semester. And that the student's been working on it. Maybe they showed it during the course of a class.
Okay.
Now, at the end of the semester, we often encourage faculty, please consider having students submit the portfolio.
We love submitting.
Love submitting because it creates a record.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of review that for purposes of grading and assessment and some of those other things. So the scenarios, the template's out there. They got that launched using the first video.
Okay.
Now they're going to submit kind of their final assignment for purposes of the course.
Okay.
Okay.
So they've just been working on it kind of on their own.
They have.
Okay.
So you're going to
So
hit
we're
the plus sign. You
press
bet.
the blue button.
Yep.
We're going to create an
We're
assignment.
going to create an assignment.
And we'll call it whatever we want to call it. Final submission.
Final submission, but I also think it's good to add a little bit more in title and description. So instead of just final submission, it might be dash for Jenna's course. Because if students have maybe 4 or 5 courses that they may be taking, and they all decide to say final course, even though it says the name of the course.
Yeah.
I just think it's better to be obvious, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Maybe even a semester, maybe even a
I think that's a
CRN,
great
whatever
idea.
makes the most sense.
Great idea.
Okay.
Description can be see Jenna if you have questions or something, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. And those tags up there, most of the folks will just leave it on default. It's an ePortfolio, but it does give options for the future and how you might think about a portfolio assignment.
Yeah.
But again, simple today. Just leave it to default.
Okay.
All right. As we scroll down, is it required, as in thou shalt do this?
I mean, a final submission,
I would think so too.
I would think should be
leave it as
required.
right?
Of course, you can choose, but
Right. And since they already have a template, they've already been working on their site, we're going to do no new props or templates are needed because
Right.
they already have that.
Right.
Okay?
So there is this option to use prompts or templates. We talked about templates in the other video. Go watch that one. We're not going to talk about that
and
here.
we'll spend some time on prompts in the bonus video because there's a lot of cool stuff, but
Yeah.
we'll just go through the basics.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so no new prompts
Right.
or templates are needed.
Right.
Now we're going to say the availability. This is all kind of pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward,
here,
right?
The due on,
Yep.
we can set a due date and make that, we're going to make it due on Thanksgiving. That's not a good idea. Maybe the day before
All right.
Thanksgiving. How about that?
Well, and another habit I encourage faculty is consider doing it like at 5 p.m. and not 11:59. And the only reason I say that, guys, is if your students are having issue or the faculty are having issue, we're around.
Yeah.
But neither of us are going to be taking phone calls at 11:59.
No,
So
no.
it's the following day.
That's a good call.
Right.
Making it visible to students.
We want students to see it.
Yep.
Right.
Do we want to allow resubmission for this
I
thing?
think it's a really good habit.
Okay.
So we have that in the classic one as well. It allows them to resubmit, in other words, to do a whoops,
Yeah.
up until November 28th at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
I just think it's a good thing to do. But it's your call, but I think it's a good practice.
Okay. And allowing late submission, that's another option here.
This is a new thing.
Oh, we didn't have this in
We
Classic?
didn't have this in Classic. And so you can say, I'm going to allow late submissions even after the 28th.
Okay.
But every submission is going to be time and date stamped, right? So it's going to be there, it's going to be locked in.
So you can still see if somebody is submitting
Yes, you
something
can.
after the due
You
date,
can.
but
And you see there's 3 options there. You can allow late submission. Maybe they can't get full points, they get a percentage off.
sure.
As long as they do it 2 days after or something, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the standard toggles.
Okay.
No surprise there. As you scroll down, you can decide
see
to
some grading
enable
options.
grading options, right?
Yeah.
So you can display the grade as numeric. There are letter grades. You can change the maximum points. If you click on that
Ooh,
little
what's that
grade
one?
settings, that'll tell you what the default is.
Oh, okay.
So, but you can override the default.
Okay.
Right? So it is
So you can
solely
go in
up to
here and
faculty.
edit and
you can do your
get
edits.
as custom as you want to
You
for
got-
this.
You can
but
add
you don't-
rows, you can add
you
labels.
don't have to.
You don't have to,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So we'll probably just leave it as this standard kind of grade
Sure.
settings.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then you can do weighting, all those other things that people have been asking for at some point. And then usually everyone can view their own grade.
Okay. That makes,
Typical thing, right?
That makes sense.
Assessment and outcomes, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But we're not going to spend a lot of time today. But you can have multiple outcomes tied to assignments. And so this
Interesting.
allows you to have
And
like
outcomes would be like,
so
oh, look,
Yeah.
here's some examples.
So ACADU does the value rubric, and so you may have multiple outcomes with the assignment, and each outcome could have a rubric with it.
Okay.
So this is a spot that you could really open up some interesting instructional design
Yeah.
aspects
I can
of it.
see there could be a whole lot of layers to this.
You got it.
Yeah.
But if you just want the final assignment where they're submitting it to create the record, you can just leave that blank. And
Okay.
you can always add things on the fly when you're doing the work, okay?
Okay.
Who can see it? Submitter and other faculty members, if you're the only faculty member in the class, whatever.
doesn't really matter,
but
yeah.
people may have others that are TAs that they're designating as faculty or something like that, right?
Yep. And this last chunk of peer assessment and feedback, another cool new tool.
Cool new
but,
tool. Let's skip it for now.
Okay.
All right?
Yep.
And so if you just move that to the left during submissions, option to share, we'll come back and we'll play around with that later.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just the basic, get her in, get a copy, start doing some of the assessment and scoring. Okay,
So we
great.
click create
Done.
and it's there.
It's there.
Very
right?
straightforward
You got it.
assignment there. So if I go over to my student perspective here,
Mm-hmm.
ta-da,
Final submission for Jenna.
final submission.
Which goes back to, even though it says Jenna sample course,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's nice that you're just really obvious for students,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And they can see right there on the front page what the time frame is for the due date.
You got it.
And they would just add some work
They
here,
could do
right?
two ways. They
Okay.
could click there to add work, but most of the students, what they'll probably do is they'll be in a portfolio.
Okay.
Because most of them are used to that, right? So they'll be in something of, I'm working on it, I want to submit it and take a look at and then do the work. And so,
So this is one I had started. It's obviously not complete, but
it's fine. It
my
is what it
student is going to submit an incomplete thing here.
Whatever.
That's what I'm going to do.
So same that remember we said not a lot of changes, right?
Yeah.
So the way the students are submitting today, same way in Kora.
Okay, so
All right?
they don't actually have to shift
They
their whole
don't
mindset.
have to shift any
Okay.
mindset, right?
So if they're working on a portfolio, they can
Right.
go up to the top bar and click submit,
Pick the right assignment.
which is why we labeled
Which
it
is why we
something
labeled
really
it, right?
helpful.
Yes.
So this is the final submission
Yep.
for Jenna's fall 2024 course.
And when
That
you click
seems
on that, it'll even
real
bring
straightforward.
up more. Now, some folks get a little confused, even today, with this page.
Yep.
They just think automatically everything's going to be submitted. They have to consciously decide what they want to submit.
Right.
And so they can select page by page by page, or that little blue box that's right by your name, right there. If you
Right
click
there.
yep, that selects all pages.
I see
And
that.
for our scenario, that's probably the most likely scenario that students are going to do after the end.
Yeah.
You notice we don't have to worry about publishing anymore.
Yep, these things all say draft
Right.
over there.
So the software automatically will push that draft content into the submission.
Got it. So you take kind of one step out of
It
the
is.
process.
Yeah, it's worked out
That's
really
nice.
well for the folks I've worked with.
That's nice.
So, blue submit button does its thing.
And we get our
Spins. Now,
receipt there.
We do get that, and so we get the green check box.
Yep.
I frequently will get the question, what does it look like for the faculty when they're looking at this? So if you click on the name, Jenna Amber Fold, there you go. This is what your faculty sees.
So it says you're viewing an archived ePortfolio. That's what it should say.
Correct.
So that says like, this is done, this is not, you're not
Right,
editing this
right.
anymore, this is what you have sent.
Correct. Now, you're probably
No.
going to need, you're probably not going to pass this class with this.
You don't think so?
I don't.
My
I don't.
completely blank site is not going to be
don't.
okay?
I don't.
But I do see the instructions aren't here
I
because
know, the instructions
are
gone.
only an edit.
That's right. So if you
All right, so we're
escape all
back
that-
to faculty here,
Yeah,
or
no, well, let's stay one more
Okay,
in that.
okay.
So remember we said we set up a whoops.
yes.
So
for a late submission or
submit
resubmission,
again, right? And
Yep.
so if the student is like, crap, right?
Yep.
They can go in, they make a change,
So
and you notice that the submit button is still there, right?
yeah. So if I said, oh, I did actually want something there, so now
I can go
what would I do as a student?
submit.
Submit.
Same process, right?
Same
We're going through the
process.
Same process.
I can go
File
into that.
submission,
It's still there.
right? Yep. We're going to make sure everything gets submitted.
Okay.
Submit again,
And now it's submitting that change that I made.
right?
A whole
so
new-
now we got a whole new one coming, right?
So if I click onto the name, just like we did before, now I see
Whoops.
a whoops.
Right.
So it updated that change that I made. And faculty will still see both of the submissions, but they'll get the timestamp of this is the more recent one.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Cool. So now we're back in the faculty world.
You got it.
But this is actually on your main homepage. You just
Yep.
log right in and
Yep.
it's right there.
It's right
So
there.
I can see one submitted, one not submitted. If I needed to like poke this person and say,
Correct.
hey,
Yep.
you know, I could say to those who've submitted, like, thank
You
you,
got
great
it.
job, way to go. Or those who haven't submitted, I can say, you know, hey, get your assignment in
Yep.
and allow some late submissions if
You
you
got
need
it.
to. Cool. So that's an option.
Yep.
And I can go to review submissions.
Let's do review submissions. So there's what we did. But you notice there's a +1 at the bottom. So we
Ooh,
have
I see that way down here somewhere.
We have, yeah, the earlier submission is there.
Okay, so I
But-
see this one was 11:38,
Yep.
11:40. We have
You got it.
timestamps.
Yep, we can
And
go there.
if I click on that one, I see that assignment submission, which should not have the
Which will
whoops
not have
there.
the whoops.
It doesn't even have Mickey Mouse.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Okay. And so I can click between those, and if I had multiple students submitting
You
things,
can.
then I could click between
it's just
those
kind
here
of a
with this
carousel
arrows.
view. And some of the folks we've
Okay.
played with on the tool really like that aspect of
Yeah.
just being able to go from site to site to site.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes a lot of
Yep.
sense. And what else do we see here? So we can see the course name up top, so
Yep.
we know, or the
Yep.
assignment name rather, so we know exactly what we're looking
Yep.
at.
Yep.
Over on the corner
and you know
here.
It's final submission.
Final
There will be a
submission.
list of students that show up where you clicked.
Yep,
So
I've only
that's all
got
there.
one
You
student
only
in
got
this
one
course,
student.
but that's what
Right.
I would see here.
You got
You
it.
can even message people from here
Okay.
too.
It's
Cool.
actually really cool. It's a
Very
nice way
cool.
to do it.
And you can sort.
Yep. And then on the lower right is you have the grade,
Mm-hmm.
allowing you to put in, depending on how you set up your numeric values or whatever, right?
Yep.
Outcomes, which we didn't have anything set up, but if you remember, if we have outcomes, they will be listed here.
Yeah.
Faculty can also create outcomes on the fly. And
So
each
I can
outcome,
I
you
can still
could.
see those.
You
So
can.
I could say, wow,
Absolutely.
this was some really great critical
Yep.
thinking on this one.
You got it. Done. And you see there's a little grid by it. So that brings up a rubric.
Ooh.
You could actually put in a score. And then you see that little plus sign that's next to it?
Down here?
Nope, yep, right there.
Okay.
Click. That allows you to add in additional comments.
Wow. So there's a lot
There's
of
a
layers
lot
of
different-
feedback you can
lot of
really
different layers
get
of
given.
feedback.
Okay.
And we may do a whole video on some of these things because it's really cool.
Yeah.
Conversations,
I think that's very cool.
I
tool.
think this is very cool too.
Yeah.
It works a lot like word markup language. So it allows you to leave feedback for the student. It gives you options even to leave feedback that could be viewable not just by the faculty member,
Yeah.
you, but also the students as a group, or do I just want it going to Jenna?
Yeah.
So for folks like for a group project, so I'm working on, like social work has some group projects they do with the portfolio.
Yeah.
I would add that plus sign by your name.
Okay.
I'd add the additional people in the group,
Oh.
and then they would also get notifications
Okay.
as well.
That makes sense. So you could search for anybody who's in the course there.
You got it. So
Nice.
it's a really interesting way to give a lot of feedback and whatnot.
Yeah.
But again, we said we were just going to do simple.
Yep,
Right?
we did.
So I mean, we get excited. I mean, both of us get excited with the possibilities.
There's so many fun tools.
I know. Well, there's more videos, right? So we've got the template.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's launched. they're working with it. We got an assignment that captures that at the end. We talked a little bit about some of the grading pieces, and we can
Yep.
come back later and spend a little time with that. But for the most part, we've hit all aspects of that simple scenario. Right?
Yeah, we did. So that's what assessment, that's really the basics.
That's the basics.
That's all you need to know to get going in
That's
Kora.
the minimum. We're good to go.
Come January 2025 when it rolls
got
out.
it. Unless we get out a little earlier,
Oh.
then you can kind of play with it.
Yeah, and if you do want to play with it some more, you can always reach out to us.
Reach out to us.
And we can kind of talk you through things or add you to some sample
Okay,
areas.
we can
right?
do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All
We
right.
can turn it down for them. So we've got at least a couple more videos coming.
We do.
So
We've got
watch for us.
some fun bonus content and a couple of just, looking at the new tools.
You
So,
got it. So
Thanks, guys.
thanks, everyone.